Cook Strait, look, it is an absolute key passageway for the movement of freight. And we have big tidal flow north to south. And look, there's a lot going on. And I think it's really, really important that there is good communications. And I'm really grateful to Ferry Holdings, KiwiRail, and others that have been doing their utmost to keep us ahead of what's going on. And also, I'd just like to make the offer that, you know, Transporting New Zealand, believe it or not, we are not just about road freight. For us, multimodal transport is really key. So if there's anything we can do to help any of you key stakeholders, please let us know. But otherwise, with that, I will say I'm going to welcome, and it's Massimo first up from Ferry Holdings, who's going to come and give us an update on the Ferry Holdings project.
Thank you, Don. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Massimo Soprano. I'm the Ships Program Director of Ferry Holdings. So my role is to lead the ship replacement part of Ferry Holdings. Today, we just wanted to give this group just a recap on the program overall in terms of what the scope is, and but then focus on give you an update on where we're at with ships and the infrastructure. So Ferry Holdings was established in March 2025 as a Crown-owned entity, and with a clear scope, a clear mandate. One is to deliver the Cook Strait Ferry Replacement Program end-to-end in partnership with ports and KiwiRail, procure the 2 rail-enabled ferries, and have a role in coordinating and aligning the work of port, rail, and road infrastructure, and lead the delivery, managing the risks, and reporting to the shareholding ministers. There are some key guiding principles for the program. One is actually to try to maximize the reuse of existing infrastructure. So anything that has been determined to be capable to be reused for the infrastructure has been included in the scope. The approach of the project has been on a minimum viable product, so just develop what is needed, and the focus of the program is managing cost, risk, and have a strong discipline around the scope, avoiding scope creep. It is a partnership program. There are a lot of partners involved in this program. There is Ferry Holdings that has got effectively an integrator type of role in this program. There is the shipyard in China. GSI is one of the largest builder of large RoPax ferries in the world. And then, of course, the operator, KiwiRail and Inter-Islander, and the 2 ports, Centreport and Port Marlborough. In terms of the scope and the design of the new ships, 2 rail-enabled ferries. They've been designed specifically for the Cook Strait conditions. We spent time with the operator in terms of assessing the risks of operating the ferries in these conditions, and work together with them to develop the specification of the new ferries. They are 200 meters long, 28 meters wide, just over 1,500 passenger capacity, and they've got a freight capacity of 2,400 truck length meters, and they can be, it's interchangeable with capacity of rail, which one deck of the ship can be used just for rail. So the ship has got a capacity of 40 rail wagons. When we say optimize for the Cook Strait conditions, they are the environmental conditions of the Cook Strait, which are very well known to be challenging, as well as the operating conditions of this trade. The focus on the design of the ship has been about reliability and redundancies to make the new fleet of ferries reliable, and the design of the ferry has been also address future carbon emission reduction requirements. So it's got a future-proofing element in it to make sure that as things developed in terms of the carbon emission requirements, the ship will have a number of design solutions to deal with carbon emissions. In terms of where we're at with the ships, 2026 is design year for us. That's what we're doing. We're doing soon after we signed the shipbuilding contract in November last year, we went straight into design with the shipyard, our advisors, and KiwiRail. And this program of design is really has intensified. We're about 30% through the detailed design, technical detailed design. Well over 50% of the interior design has been done, and we are 70% over the maker selection. So the ship is built by the shipyards, and then of course there are all the equipment, all the systems that they go into the ships are selected from makers, the propulsion system, the engines, everything else that goes on the ship. We've gone through about 70% of that process, and all the key components of the ships have been selected. We do spend a considerable amount of time engaging with the shipyard in technical discussion. And all this process, in terms of design, do involve the operator in terms of ensuring that the design meets the specification and meets the requirement of KiwiRail. In terms of delivery, we do have, I said before, GSI is one of the largest builder of large RoPax ferries. We have very clear contractual milestone leading to the delivery of the two ships in 2029. We have an assurance process in place throughout the design and then during the build. The build will start in Q2 2027, so the first ship construction will start next year. And prior to that, we will have a team of Ferry holdings based at the shipyard to manage the build quality and the commissioning of the new ships. Key to this process of design is the alignment with the ports. So we do spend a considerable amount of time with our colleagues in the infrastructure space and the port designers from Centreport and PMNZ just to make sure that the design of the ships, the interface between the ship and the port infrastructure, particularly things like the link span that connects the ship with a yard, actually working. In terms of an update on the scope of the ports, just a very brief summary. Picton is really a replacement end of life of the infrastructure. So there is pretty much everything needs to be rebuilt. So there will be a new wharf, there will be a new dual level link span, a new vehicle access bridge, and a passenger walkway. In Wellington is where we're trying to maximize the reuse of what already exists. So the scope is less. Having said that, there are challenges in terms, and I'll go to that in a minute, in terms of working in a very tight space. But basically, it will be a new dual level link span is the key piece of new infrastructure, and the wharf will be retained. Obviously, there is work to be done to accommodate larger ships, longer ships that they got a bigger displacement. So in terms of an update, in Picton, the early works are nearly completed. So there's been quite a lot of work that has been done in the demolition of the vehicle access bridge. The removal of the old link span infrastructure has been completed. There is some relocation done of an existing transformer that would have been otherwise in the way of the new access bridge. And now the program is working on mobilizing the equipment in preparation for the commencement of construction. The first part of the construction will be building a transition wharf that will enable the movement of the existing ship away from where the new wharf will be built. I don't want to take away the interesting part of the update from Wellington, but in Wellington also there is a lot happening in relation to early works. So the demolition of the elevated passenger walkway, which was the one that used to be used for access to the Aratiri, that has been demolished. The nesting dolphin, where the Aratiri used to go, they also been removed, and the enabling works for the link span removal are also progressing. A key activity now is there is an installation of marker buoys to aid the safe mooring of the existing ship on the other side of the wharf that will be used for the new ships. That is to allow the demolition of a finger, is that last part here. This finger will be demolished to enable the lengthening of the wharf to allow for the 200-meter ships to be berthed in the old Aratiri berth. One of the biggest challenges of the infrastructure is working in a live port environment. In both ports will need to remain fully operational during construction. Safety of the construction people, the KiwiRail team, and the passengers is paramount. So there is all the work that goes into assessing those risks and staging the work in such a way that can be done safely. And the sequence is also, and not only safely, but it also has to be done in a sequence that would allow the completion of the work on time for the arrival of the new ships. So the next milestones, 2026 is, as I said, is a design year. There are a lot of interface decisions that have to be made, and like anything else, there are two designs. There is the ship and the infrastructure, so that there are decisions that have to be made almost on a daily basis between which design drives the other. Other important work that we have started and is primarily led by KiwiRail is the operational readiness and the transition of the infrastructure into the new ones while they're operating the service, and is the scheduling. The scheduling is really what is a key. Scheduling and risk management are the two focus of what we're doing at the moment. So this is the update from Ferry Holdings. I don't know if there are questions.
Sorry, just you mentioned the fact that you're sort of building in contingencies or allowances for sort of CO2 emissions and changes. So does that mean that do they have hybrid capability?
Yes. Yes.
And that might be able to be developed further?
So the ships are diesel electric with batteries. So effectively, there are a number of ways to produce electricity on the ship. They're fitted with diesel engines, so that's the base, let's say the base design. But they're also, because they're fitted with batteries, it means that energy can be, excess energy can be stored on the ship and then used using the batteries. There are also a possibility to have shore power to recharge the batteries, and the ships are also specified with the possibility to run on methanol. So they're actually designed with dual fuel methanol capabilities. So there are a number of, and it's like anything else, you know, you really don't have a crystal ball. You have to try to look at different solutions. A lot of them are relating to what would be available in terms of supply of fuel or supply of electricity, and at which cost that will come, both in terms of infrastructure and operating costs. From our point of view, is to develop a design that will give us as much flexibility as possible to deal with that.
Mesmo, further to that, have you actually considered using the batteries to feed back into the national grid? I know some of the electric truck users are looking to do that.
Yes. The ship could actually put electricity back into the grid. Would have been probably more in a situation where, for contingency purposes, disaster relief type of arrangement, where the ship is effectively is a power station.
Correct.
So it's not just the battery, but actually it's what can be produced by the engines.
Do you foresee heavy vehicles being charged well on a journey?
There are some challenges in general with charging EVs on the ships at the moment, and that is really the 5 risks of doing that. Carrying EVs is one thing. Carrying EVs and charging them does increase the 5 risks. So the ship is designed for having that capability of charging EVs, but the initial position would be that those charging outlets may not be fitted until such time there is a fire detection and suppression system that would mitigate those risks.
One question I get asked, Massimo, is what sort of sea state wave conditions are the ferries being designed for?
Yeah, they are designed to 6 meter significant wave height or higher, which is currently your operating limit. Now, because the ships are bigger, longer, the seakeeping, just because of that, the seakeeping is expected to improve anyway. It's just the results of the size of the ship, the length in particular.
And just on the dimensions, is the width the same as the current vessels?
No, they're wider.
Oh, okay, that's good.
They're wider than the other.
19 to 28.
Yeah, 28, yeah.
Of the other theory, the K ships are,
I think trucks have a 25 metre turning circle, so 28 should be good.
No, the turning circle is okay, because they're stern only, so they have to turn inside. And there are 2 turning circles on the ship. The ship has been designed with a center casing with a break in between. So it's designed so the main deck could be potentially loaded part with rail and part with trucks, because there is there is the ability of turning trucks amidship. They don't have to go to the end.
Thanks for that, Massimo. If everyone could show their appreciation on the journal there. Look, I would next like to welcome up from KiwiRail, Alan Piper is the GM for commercial, and so I think whilst we've had great discussions, I'm really stoked, Alan, with the effort you've put in over the last couple of years, actually, to make sure we get this whole system working as well as it can. Welcome, Alan.
Thanks. Alan Piper, GM of Freight Markets at KiwiRail. So that includes freight and the commercial vehicles, which is such a big part of the Inter-Islander business. So when we last caught up in February in Blenheim, it was a really great opportunity to talk to the industry on what was planned through the wet and dry docks through 2020 through to 2029, and also starting to think about when the new Inter-Islander ferries will arrive in the New Zealand waters. By my reckoning, we're just over 1,000 days till the new ferries arrive. But more importantly, we're T-minus 7 days until we go to our first managed maintenance program of wet and dry docks, which obviously takes us from 2 ferries to 1. So we take a full life cycle ownership approach, and I made this point in February, and we prefer Singapore to our scheduled maintenance docks to ensure the guarantee of getting to Singapore, getting back without any disruption. To remind us all, KiwiRail will have a wet dock here beginning next week from the 22nd to the 13th of July. So we're going to be doing some works with the KiwiRail so that it's as shipshape as we need it to be, and then the Kaiteki will leave for Singapore on the 18th of July, returning on the 26th of September. So freight is going to be front and centre for us over this period. We've spent a significant amount of time since February talking with our customers, agreeing capacity and timetables for their freight. And internally, we've also been getting ready for the next 96 days. So the question I often get asked the most is, well, how are you going to manage in the event of a disruption, and particularly weather? So we are currently allocating capacity on the basis that if there's a short weather event, like we saw last Monday in Wellington, Cook Strait closures, we are planning to be able to sort of get back to everybody moved within a sort of 3 to 5 to 7 day period, depending on the length of the weather event. So we're holding capacity to make sure that we can catch up. But the key message is we're not selling every possible slot on every possible sailing, because that gives you no resilience to manage in the event of a disruption. We know, looking at historical weather patterns, this period of the year, anywhere between 1% and 3% of sailings are cancelled because of weather, and that's just the statistics that we all know and we live and breathe on the Cook Strait. To support some of the capacity gap, because 2 ferries to 1, less capacity, in partnership with ANL CMA, we've relaunched our New Zealand Connect service. Now, we launched that through the Kaikoura earthquake. We've relaunched it. The service will enable preferential rail rates and access to capacity between ports of Auckland and ports of Lyttelton. So it's a railhead to railhead solution between Auckland and Christchurch. One of the benefits of that is that, yes, there is freight in Auckland, and this isn't an Auckland-centric statement. What it also means is that we can provide some pressure relief out of some of the key freight demand in the upper North Island. It allows those customers in the lower North Island to be able to continue to access capacity on the Cook Strait. So it's a way of evening that out. And we've already had people starting to use the service, which we're delighted with. That's the New Zealand Connect service. So the key message for our freight customers is to work with us to understand your needs. Show up when you book your crossing. Really important you do that. If you don't need the booking, others will be wanting it. So that's a really clear message which we ask our road customers to work with us. So we want to fairly allocate capacity. On the design and infrastructure fronts, we're obviously working closely with Ferry Holdings, which is what Massimo covered just earlier on the ship design. And we're really excited with what we see, particularly in the commercial vehicle front. So we're really hoping, we know that to share some plans in the next few months to start building a bit of excitement for what's coming. We know that cabins for drivers is really, really important. So I think the market will be really pleased with what we've come up there to support lounges and cabins for the drivers on the ship. So stand by for that. We're obviously working closely with our port partners, both in Wellington and Picton. And as we really focus on the customer experience as we transition to new terminals and landside infrastructure. And that needs to be carefully managed and choreographed. So strong collaboration is required between Ferry Holdings, the ports and KiwiRail through this period, not only for safety, but also to protect the tourism brand that's so important to this country, not only the domestic, but international tourism as well. So thank you for your ongoing support. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. And look, next up is Anthony Delaney. So you for Centreport. I've had the pleasure of going around Centreport in the last year. And, it is an amazing facility. And I think whilst a lot of us sort of tend to focus on the Inter-Islander services, I was up in the stadium a few weeks ago and looked out and I saw the logs that were there. Logs, cars, containers, a lot of stuff comes through the port. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing what Alan's got to say. Welcome, Alan. Anthony, sorry.
Thanks, everyone. I haven't actually got a slide deck prepared. I do have a wonderful video that we'll get going in a minute, but just to give you some key points and to reiterate some of the stuff that Massimo's talked about in terms of the collaboration and working together and the integration in particular. The success of this is going to come down to the integration of ships design, link span, infrastructure design, and then the rail design to make it, from a system point of view, So there's a lot of those discussions, a lot of integration, but on top of it, we've got to keep the project moving forward. And if you've driven past there in Wellington, or you've been down to the rail ferry terminal, as we call it in Wellington, you'll see, and as was in Massimo's slide, you'll see a lot of the construction equipment already down there, in terms of jack-up barges and cranes and the works that we've been progressing. We actually started, I think it was in October last year, and so when the Aratiri retired. And so effectively we've been methodically pulling things out. We call it site preparation works. Massimo called it demolition. Ultimately, we've been taking out what is redundant since that period when we started. But in the background, we've been designing with our designers. We have our first detailed designs already in getting a building consent. We have the necessary resource consents. We have a strong partnership with iwi in terms of the environmental monitoring and the like, and in particular around marine mammals and the like. Going on, Massimo touched it. It's a constrained footprint. The key metric that we have, which is based on a discussion with KiwiRail, is that we can't stop it. We can't stop day-to-day operations, but we have to work out a way where we can enable that, but also enable the construction, because the key assumption that we have is the ferries will not be late, and so we have to have the infrastructure in place to allow the operator to start their testing, their commissioning and their operational readiness phase when the first vessel arrives. So lots going on. What I ask from you is that you'll read a lot, you see a lot. Don't assume, please. We're quite an open and transparent organisation. You can come and ask a question. And we'll give you the factual information. Key messages, I suppose, I'm reiterating it, is works have started, works is progressing, and we're on track. But there's a lot of work to go, and we've got to work out how we integrate and keep that going and that momentum going. So what you see is a bit of what I call construction entertainment, and it's a fly through of the sequencing around how we're building it, starting back a wee way, and I'll give you a bit of commentary as we go. We're obviously working with Perry Civil at the moment, and so that's underneath the wharf. In terms of the condition of it, the underlying condition of the wharf, we have lifespan and left it, hence the maximum reuse. That's the jack-up barges that you see, the existing link span and other infrastructure, and that's what we're taking out and have taken out a lot of it as well. We need to relocate the passengers to a different route to keep them going, and the walk-on passengers, sorry. And so that also, we're looking at how we manage the building whilst we do that. The temporary staging jetty, we're looking at actually starting the piling of that this week or next week, and the starting of it. We have to extend the wharf, and you can see the jack-up barge on the right-hand side. To give you assurance, the first 20 containers with all the steel casings for that arrive this Wednesday into Wellington on the Busan. So we've completed a lot of the long lead item ordering that we need to keep the momentum. And so you can see us out there extending the existing wharf to cater for the new length of the vessel, whilst we're starting to build the specific nesting infrastructure and support structures for the new link span. So lots of equipment, lots of people in terms of working. We will try to maximise working hours in a 24-hour period. And we're looking at 2 staging. So if you look at the southern end of the port, near where Blue Bridge is operation, you'll see a staging wharf already built there, and that's the first staging. We're looking at working off Kaifara Point as well in terms of building another staging point. And what that means is the staging locations aren't the critical points in terms of making momentum, keeping going. All the standard stuff in terms of fendering and the like. The red is the new approach bridge coming in. You can see the installation of the access bridge as well, or gangway for passengers. You can see all the dolphins and the nesting infrastructure required to support the new vessels. And the pink, I think it's pink, is the new link span that goes in. And you can see where we're tracking to in terms of November. And then hopefully by January, we're ready January, February, March, ready to cater for the first vessel that is arriving. So lots going on, but I'll take any questions. But like I said, the momentum is building.
Question, what do you think some of the risks to the project being delivered are?
From a construction point of view,
Construction.
materials, access. I'm less concerned about things like geotech. We've done a lot of geotech. We have a strong relationship with iwi. Consenting risks, like I said, we have a resource consent. A lot of this work is permitted activities within our approval regime, and we've got a strong relationship with the council in terms of building consents, and some of those are already in to start the works.
Great.
The key thing, like I said, is keeping the momentum going, and it's what Massimo said. As the ships evolve and they design, the link span needs to align to that, and the infrastructure needs to align to that.
So just one from me, Anthony. You said there Centreport, you're pretty upfront, pretty communicative. So I guess that means if you've got road freight operators with queries or they're hearing issues that might concern them, you just encourage them to. Yeah,
just go. Yeah. We're establishing communication portals and information in terms of websites and all that type of stuff now. If you see something that could be done differently or improved, shout out. But ultimately, the key message for you is we're going to have to create some change, in particular with the passengers, to enable it. But ultimately, the key thing is we're looking at zero disruption to the road freight in terms of infrastructure build.
Who is the designer, engineering designer and completion period of this project?
The engineering designer is a mixture. So the link span designer is direct through Ferry Holdings. The infrastructure designer are local Wellington people that have worked on the asset down there, which is Holmes Consulting, and they have a long history with the existing assets down there. And we have other peer reviewers and other special designers as well.
Thanks, Anthony. Firstly, thanks to the speakers, Anthony, Alan and Massimo. I've been fortunate, I think it's a few months ago, to look through Port Marlborough, along with Ferry Holdings, and see the work there. And I live 10 miles up the road, but work in Balcott Street, so I drive past the ferry terminal every day. And look, I've got an engineering background, and I don't underestimate the complexity of this project. And I'm actually really stoked to say I've been astounded how much work has already been completed. And all in all, I think it's been done at minimal disruption and inconvenience. So please pass on our thanks to all your teams, because I know, working in a live environment like that, even if it was greenfields, dare I say it, it's complex enough. But to do what you're doing, I think it's going really, really well. And certainly we'll give you a commitment that we're keen to keep communicating, help each other out, because it is clearly going to need everyone working together to get through this. On that, if there's any last questions, otherwise we'll close it up. And please join us for some refreshments, and then we'll be away. Thanks very much.